Welcome. So in this lab, we're going to be doing VLANs and VLAN trunking. So this is the topology of where we left off in the previous lab. And again, what we're trying to do, or what we will be doing eventually, is making it look like this, what's called a switch block. This switch block over here, we'll talk more about that. This is the switch block we are working on, the group of switches. So let me do this. I'm going to make this a little bigger so we can zoom in right here. See that a little better. Scroll. There we go. All right. So I've already done this over here, but I've changed the display names. Distribution 1, distribution 2. All the switches over here will have a display name and a host name that begins with 1. For example, these are access layer switches. That's why it's called distribution switch. Ignore that when you wander over. We'll actually use that later because there's some useful information that's being shown there. But anyway, distribution 1, distribution 2, access 1-1, access 1-2. These are all on underneath distribution 1. Access 1-3 and access 1-4. These are all access switches. So over here, we'll change these display names to access 2-1, access 2-2, two more, access 2-3, and the last one here, access 2-4. All right. The next thing we're going to do is some basic configuration on all of the switches. So what I like to do is this. Okay, I've got a little Word document here that I create, and you can see all my different configurations here, but this is the basic startup config. I have enable config T. We're going to put the host name, whatever it is. For example, we'll start with distribution 1. All of our switches and other devices will have the privileged exec password class. We're going to configure SSH. We'll talk more about this later, but we're creating a username called admin. This will allow us to remotely access the devices using this username, and the password be SSH admin. No IP domain lookup. This keeps any kind of errors that we make with typos from looking for a DNS server, trying to resolve that, thinking it's something other than a typo we made. This helps create the key that's going to be used here for for SSH. So you can put any domain name you want in here. Line console 0. This keeps our session from timing out when we've logged in. And that's something you'd only use in a lab network, never in production. Password Cisco, logging synchronous to keep our the output from iOS from interrupting our input. Here's our login, exit. Here's our remote virtual terminal VTY 015. This just means we're going to use SSH for remote access. And we do an end copy run to start. You see some other stuff down below there. We'll get to that in a moment. So all I'm going to do is this. I'm going to just copy this, as you'll see. Copy. Go to my switch here. CLI. Okay. Paste. Now quickly look, make sure there's no errors, no issues. Fine. That looks good. Okay. For the next one, what I'm going to do is the same thing. Okay, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change the host name each time. So now I'll do it for distribution 2. Doesn't this make it nice and easy? Copy over here to distribution 2. Paste. Okay. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to pause the recording as I do this so you don't have to just watch me copy and paste. All right, so I went ahead and did that basic configuration on all of the switches. If I click on one of these, you'll even see. Okay, got that out of the way. All right, so we're going to be talking about VLANs. Actually, mostly in my class, I'll do the lecture on the VLANs, just try and focus on the lab here. But a VLAN is typically associated with a unique IP network address. It separates broadcast domains. We'll see that more as we go through this. But let me start going through this here. Matter of fact, what I am going to do is, since we're not going to be using all of this, there we go. All right. So I chose one of the access switches, and I'm going to do the command show VLAN. Okay, see a bunch of stuff there, but we're going to make this a little bigger here. So there we go. By default, all the switch ports are on one VLAN, VLAN 1. This is known as the default VLAN. Okay. Also, if I look at, well, let's see, I probably need to do a ping here. Let me ping from PC0 to PC1 here. So I'm going to remember we did all the addressing previously. Hopefully I did everything correctly. Looks like I did. Ping PC0 to PC1. Now, the reason I did that is I want to show you the MAC address table on that switch. Okay. You'll notice that when I displayed the MAC address table, that everything is in one VLAN. Okay. All the ports are in one VLAN. That's because this makes us one broadcast domain. Okay. We're going to be separating some of these switch ports into different VLANs based upon their IP address and put the IP address of the end device, which will put them into different broadcast domains. Okay, so our network actually has different IP network addresses, and I've associated with different functional groups like engineering, quality assurance engineering, sales, marketing. We have a voice, we'll talk about that later, and a guest VLAN. But you notice each network address has a separate VLAN. So I'm going to first create the VLANs. And I'm going to show you my configuration here. So I'm actually going to create the VLAN numbers, VLAN 10, and I'm going to give it a name, engineering. Now, I don't have to do this in all cases. I'll talk about when I assign a VLAN to a port. If I didn't do this already, this will be done for me. We'll get there in a moment. But as you can see here, what I'm going to be doing, I'll make this a little bigger so you can see it. These are all VLAN numbers, and I've given them a unique name. And we'll see the result of this in just a moment. Okay, so the same thing, I'm going to copy all of this because this is going to be identical on all of my devices. Notice I do copy, run, start at the end. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to move this off to the side. Let's go over to access 1.1. Now, I did enable and config T. I'm already in privileged exec mode. Okay, so the enable command will just kind of be ignored, but let's go ahead and paste this. Okay, let's take a look at what happened here. Let me scroll up. Okay, there's my enable, config T, VLAN. Now, what happens is packet tracer puts a space between a line break between each one, but that's okay. VLAN 10, name engineering. Then I did exit. VLAN 20, name QA engineering, exit. Now, what I'm showing you here is I've done exit so you can see kind of the division between each VLAN. But you don't actually have to do that exit. Let me show you here. I did VLAN 180, name management, and then I just did another VLAN, VLAN 254, name native. Don't worry about all these. We'll talk more about those later. Like VLAN 255, parking lot, what's that? We'll get there later. Okay, now let me go back to doing the show VLAN command. Let's see what happened. Okay, what you will notice to make this a little bigger, see it all here, as much as we can anyway. There we go. All right, back to the show VLAN command. All my ports are still in VLAN 1. That hasn't changed. I have not assigned any ports to a VLAN other than the one that's on by default, VLAN 1. But I did create all these other VLANs. Now, what about these VLANs? I didn't create them. Those are actually legacy VLANs. We talked about those in the lecture, but we don't use these anymore. Okay. All right. So next thing we're going to do is actually configure a port to be on a specific VLAN. So let's do this. Just a little. There we go. For example, let's take a look at just this a little bit. Here we go. 10, 10, 1, 100. Okay, so this network here, the 10, 10, 1, 100, that's actually on VLAN 10, 10, 10, 1 network, 10, 10, 1 network. So anything on the 10, 10, 1 network, there, 10, 10, 1 there. Do I have any others? Nope. Those will be part of VLAN 10. Anything on the VLAN 20 network, I have some of those, 1020.1, 10.20.1, 10.20.1. This is the IP network address. That will be any of those devices on that network, 10.20.1, 10.20.1.100. VLAN 20 will make that port VLAN 20. This port here will also be VLAN 20, 10.21.101. Here's another VLAN 20 port. Okay, so let's do a couple of those. All right, I'm on access switch 1.1. Okay, so first thing, global configuration mode. Then I'm going to go into the port itself. VLANs are configured on the switch port, not on the end device. The end device has no concept of VLANs, doesn't need to. We don't want to make things, we don't want to have to change things in multiple places. We'll talk about this more in the lecture, but we just assign the VLAN port to the, or VLAN ID to the port. Fast Ethernet 0/5. Okay, there we go. This port, that's 0. That's why I put these here so we can see it. All right, first thing I'm going to do is switch port mode access. What this means is this is telling it you're not going to be a trunk port. Okay, this is the default, but this will make sure that we don't want it to also. And we'll talk more about this later. We don't want to be negotiating any kind of trunk link or anything like that. So we'll talk more about that later. But you are an access port, meaning you have one VLAN assigned to this port. Well, what VLAN is it? Right now it's VLAN 1, isn't it? Well, we got to change that. Let's change it. Switch port access. Did I make a typo? I did. You saw that, right? Switch port access VLAN 10. Now that assigns it to VLAN 10. Okay. Let's do a couple more of these other ones as well. Okay, let's go down here. Let's go, let's do all 4 of these switches. Okay, let's go to access 1-2. And by the way, yes, you can, and as a matter of fact, I even show you this in the lab, but you can create, again, okay, you can create your own scripts to do this. Set it up in advance so you can see exactly what you're doing, you know, make sure it's correct. And then all you have to do is copy and paste. Matter of fact, let's do that. Access, okay. Access 1-2. Big T, got to be in the right place. Paste. Okay, so I said interface. I'm showing you something here too. Interface fast Ethernet 0/5. Okay, switch port mode access. Okay, it's running spanning tree here. We changed VLANs on it. Switch port access VLAN 20. Now notice I did not do what I did previously on the other switch. I did not create the VLANs with the VLAN names. So it says access VLAN does not exist, so it created it. Okay. let me go back to this other switch here. Remind us that, remember, I did all those, let me scroll up here, all these VLANs. I created all these VLANs with the name. So it already had it in the VLAN database. So, but with this other switch, access 1-2, I did not do that. So let's do this, exit, show VLAN. So you notice, oh, everything was in VLAN, is in VLAN 1, except the one port I just configured. VLAN 20, that port's fast Ethernet 05, and it created this VLAN. Let's go back over to this switch here, show you that as well. Show VLAN. VLAN 10, engineering, fast Ethernet 05. Okay, so I'm going to do two things here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually, because I forgot to do that, I need to copy all of these onto each switch. Don't have to do that ahead of time, but it's best. Okay, these are all the possible VLANs in this area. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, so we already did access 1-1, didn't we? So let me get that out of the way. Let's do access 1-2. Make sure I copy it. I'm going to recopy it. Show you what I'm doing here. I'm going to copy it with the enable and config T there, so I don't have to do that. Okay, there we go. Move that out of the way. Paste. Okay, and I'm going to pause the recording, and I'm going to do the same thing on all these other switches and all the other switches. Let me pause the recording and do that. Okay, so what I had done is I just went ahead and on all the switches, I'll just grab one here and show you. I created all the VLANs with their names. Yep. Again, if I do show VLAN, I will see that I've created all those VLANs. Now again, all the ports are in VLAN 1 until I reassign them. So let's do some of that. Okay, so over here, I've created a little script to do this. Okay, so we've already done switch access 1-1 and 1-2. So I'm going to go over here to switch 1-3. Config T. And what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to grab this. Now there's two ports here that we're going to be doing. Okay, we're going to do fast Ethernet 05, and we'll talk about this IP phone in a moment, but it has a device on VLAN 10, and then it has another port, fast Ethernet 06, that has a device on VLAN 20. So let me copy both of those and paste. There we go. And you see the link lights turn orange. Again, that's because spanning tree is reconverging. Talk more about that a little later, but for now, it takes about 50 seconds. Okay, let's do these two switches here. Access 1-2. Well, I already did this one, so I don't have to worry about that. Scroll up, I think we'll see it. Yeah, remember, I hadn't done the created the VLANs yet. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Let's go down here to access 1-4. Now it will have device on two VLANs, one on port fast Ethernet 06 on VLAN 20, and another one on fast Ethernet 05 on VLAN 121. That's going to be our guest VLAN. Talk more about that, but it's just different network, different network. Okay, so let me go to 1-4. Go right here. We're going to just copy those. Config T, so my script works. There we go. So again, the interface it's going to be an access port, meaning not a trunk port. We haven't talked about trunks yet, but we will. And then we put it in that VLAN associated with that specific IP network. Same thing here. Access VLAN, VLAN 20 for that specific network. Now, what I'm going to do now is pause the recording, and I'm going to do the same thing for this group of switches over here. Okay, these access switches here. We have devices on VLAN 30, VLAN 30, VLAN 40, VLAN 40. Notice I made the VLAN number the second number in the network address. Okay. So 1040.2 is VLAN 40. 1030.2 is VLAN 30. 10.122.0 is VLAN 122. So I'm going to pause the recording. And as you can see, I'm going to run similar commands for all of those. And this lab is available in my GitHub repository if you want access to the lab itself, which has and the configuration commands, the scripts. But I also have the lab in there as well. Okay. So let me go ahead and pause the recording. Okay, made reference to the lab that my students use, but this is the lab that will walk you through everything with some explanations as well, including the configurations that I've been showing you. Okay. And that's all of this is available in my GitHub repository. Okay, let me move that to the side for now. And there we go. All right, so I configured on this group of access switches here the proper access ports, VLANs 30, VLANs 40, and VLAN 122 down here. Now, you notice that eventually all these lights turn green on these access ports, except these here on the where we have two links between the two switches, spanning trees blocking one of the ports so we don't have a loop. But you notice here, this light is still amber. What happened there? Okay, so let's take a look at this switch here. Oh, looks like we have a nice little error message from iOS. Okay, so what this error message is telling me is, let's not worry about it too much. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but it has to do with spanning tree. This is a switch port here on this switch. So what it is complaining about is that it has received a BPDU, that's a spanning tree bridge protocol data unit. Okay. And with an inconsistent peer, so it's saying we're on different VLANs. You're on, I don't know, you're on, I've been configured for VLAN 10, you're on VLAN 1, I think. Anyway, something's not right here. So what we need to do is this. We need to add a configuration to this switch port. Let me do this real quick. Okay. So I'm here at this. I'm going to go here and yeah, we're going to stay here actually on this switch here. All right. So what I want to do is I got to go into interface. I'm on access 1-3. I'm going to go on to this port here, the amber link light, fast Ethernet 0/5. Okay. Now I added a command. I said switch port mode access. That's actually referring to this device down here, this PC that's on VLAN 10. Okay. Now I'll be talking about more about this in a later video that's talked specifically to the IP phone and how it works and all of this. But for now, let's just do these commands here. What I'm going to do is say switch port voice VLAN 101. So it's going to be on a separate subnet. And then I'm also going to say MLS, QoS, trust, COS. Oh my gosh, it's a quality of service, class of service. Okay, I'll be talking about more in the video. when I talk specifically about configuring the IP phone. Okay. All right. Do an exit on this. Okay, let's do this here. I'm gonna give myself a little room here. Let's see what we've got on here. I'm gonna do show VLAN. Now I can do let me show the difference between show VLAN, whoops, and here, show VLAN. It gives me all this extra stuff down at the bottom, which I really don't need. I can just do show VLAN brief. Okay, that makes it a little shorter for me. There I go. Okay, so I've all the VLANs that I named are there. But notice I have my PC on port fast Ethernet 05 VLAN 10. But yes, fast Ethernet. There we go, VLAN 10. But fast Ethernet is also on VLAN, fast Ethernet 05, sorry, is also on VLAN 101, our voice VLAN. And notice after we did those commands, about 50 seconds later, this light turns green. Now, it does not have an IP address yet. It has to get its IP address from DHCP, and we haven't done that yet, but we will in a later lab. But for now, just know that the port's all ready to go. The switch port's all ready to go, all configured. Once we get DHCP going, we'll be good to go. All right, we're almost there. We got to do these links here. Okay, let's take a look at 1-1. Okay, if I do show VLAN brief, notice that I'm looking at fast Ethernet 01 and 02. Those are both in VLAN 1. Well, we have this is an inter-switch link here, really links, but we have a connection between two switches. We want to carry multiple VLANs. Right now, the only devices that can communicate with each other over this link is devices on VLAN 1. Well, we don't have any devices on VLAN 1 right now. We've changed them all to devices on VLAN 10, VLAN 20. Okay. We want devices from any of our VLANs that we're going to be using to be able to communicate over this link. Now, one option we do is add a connection for every VLAN, like fast Ethernet 1 and fast Ethernet 2 is. All right, sorry about that. I had to pause here as as our gardener landscaper was going by with the leaf blower. Okay, right now this link here, this fast Ethernet 2 is blocked. So let's just think about fast Ethernet 1. It's only carrying traffic for VLAN 1, devices on VLAN 1. If I wanted for VLANs 10 and 20 to be able to communicate across these links, I'd have to, maybe I could use fast Ethernet 02 for VLAN 10 and another link for VLAN 20 and another link for all my VLANs. A link for every VLAN, but wow, I only have so many ports. I don't want to use a port between every two switches for every VLAN. I could easily run out of ports. So what do? We configure something called a trunk link. Okay. So what I'm going to do is create a VLAN trunks between every two switches. These are all going to be trunks. Any place we have two switches interconnected, we're going to create a trunk. A trunk is a link that carries all the VLANs that we allow. By default, all VLANs. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so the nice thing about this is that the configuration we do, it's going to be a few lines, but it's going to be identical on every switch port that's a trunk link. So for access 1-1, this is a trunk link here. These commands, same commands here that we're going to use on fast Ethernet 01 and fast Ethernet 02, we're going to use on gigabit 01. Now, one of these links is blocked for now. We'll get to that later. Later lab, we'll see how we can bundle it as a single link. But right now, it'll be blocked, but that's fine. So let me go to access 1 here. And what I'm going to do is config T, and let's do interface gigabit 01. Now, when I do these commands, because I'm modifying the link, and the other side, it has not been configured with the same commands, the same parameters that I'm configuring here. For example, access 1-1 gigabit 01. I'm going to make this a trunk link, but the other side is not being configured with the same parameters. Depending on some things we'll talk about in the lab, I may receive some error messages. But eventually, once we get all of these switches configured, both ends of the link with the same trunking command, we'll have no problem. Okay, so let's take a look at what I like to do whenever I configure something between an access port, which it is by default, to a trunk port is I like to do shutdown first. Okay, notice we went red on there. Then there's a switch port mode trunk. So what this command here does, it says you're no longer an access port, you're a trunk port. Now we'll be talking about this in the lab, but I'm going to be or in the lecture, switch port trunk native VLAN 254. This has got to be the same on both sides. And this is typically the error message we'll get on the other side until we configure it likewise. Okay. The other thing I need to do is say which VLANs are allowed on this trunk link. By default, they're all allowed. But best practice, and we like to do best practice, just the VLANs that we're going to be having in this switch block. And what VLANs are those? So if we're going to do VLAN 1, although we'll talk more about VLAN 1 in the lecture, we got to still carry that. 10, 20, 30, 40. Look, did I have a period there? I did. This is why I use a script. Okay, let's see. I'm going to make sure I have all of these correct. Okay. I can do 101, 102, 121, 122. These are all the VLANs. Don't worry about if we haven't used or talked about all these yet. These are all the ones that'll be allowed on this trunk. I think I've got them all. 1, 10, 20, 30, 40, 101, 102, 121, 122, 180, 254. Okay. Oh, what did I do along? Oh, I know. This is great. Switch port trunk allowed. And then see this caret symbol means I got everything up until allowed. Okay, what did I forget? Okay, forgot to put the word VLAN. So that tells me, and right there, VLAN. Okay, now if I'm not sure, what I could have done is backtracked, backspaced all the way to here, put a question mark, hit enter, and it would give me my options. There we go. Next, switch port, non-negotiate. I hit the autocomplete there. There we go. We'll talk about this in the lecture, but this means I do not want to negotiate trunking at the other end because I am configuring it manually, statically as a trunk. So no negotiation needs to take place. Then I'm going to do no shutdown. Now notice I'm getting this right away, that native VLAN mismatch. Till I configure the other side, I'm going to see that on both ends. Let me move this out of the way, and this is the commands I can use. I can also use a dash for a range. So what I am going to do is on distribution 1, I'm going to configure those same commands that I did on Fast Ethernet 05 for this link. I'm going to do on distribution 1 for both links. I'm also going to do those same commands on access 1 for Fast Ethernet 1 and 2. So let's get that done. Okay. Actually, maybe I should go down here. I showed you the connect. I did it for gigabit 01. That's the connection to distribution 1. Then what I'm going to do is do it on access 1 for both these ports, and I can use the interface range command to do this. By the way, I can do this when assigning access ports, which port mode access, which port access VLAN 10, do a whole range of ports the same way. Okay, but I'm just going to copy this. Let's go back to access 1 here. Okay, so again, I'm just going to do this range here, fast Ethernet 0, 1, and 2, paste that. Okay, that's what I did. Okay, let's get rid of that. Let's go to distribution 1. You can see I'm getting that same mismatch. It says, wait a minute, you're trying to trunk with me and we've got different native VLANs. No problem. Let's go up here. Distribution 1. I'm going to do this on both gig 012 and gig 101 and gig 102 with that interface range command. Same trunking commands. Okay, so it's just a lot of repetition. Okay, all right, so I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to put the same group of commands on access 1.3 on fast Ethernet 1 and 2, access 1-1 on gig 1 and fast Ethernet 1 and 2, and access 1-4 fast Ethernet 1 and 2. Any place where I have an just between the switches. Okay, just between switches, not the access ports. I'm going to do it the same thing on all 5 of these switches. So on distribution 2, trunk link, these 2 links. Access 2-1, this link here, and these 2 links here. Access 2-3, just these 2 links here. Access 2-2, just, well, not just, this link here to distribution 2, and these 2 links here. And access 2-4, these 2 links here. Okay. I'm going to pause the recording and do all those. Okay, so I configured the trunking on all of those links I just talked about, and it was the exact same commands. That's just showing you my script. Okay, so we configured those exact same commands on all of those links. And in the lab, I do talk about what those commands do. Okay. And I also talk about that error that you'll get until we connect both ends. The native VLAN mismatch error, very common until you configure both links. Okay, let me move this out of the way. Well, first of all, what did we do and what did we break? Hopefully we didn't break anything, but let's make sure that everything is still okay. Can PC0 still ping devices on its same network, okay, which would be PC1. Let's make sure we didn't break that. So let me do an up arrow there. We still have connectivity there. That's a good thing. Okay, let me make sure that we can even have PC2 communicate with PC3 here. Same network, same VLAN, okay, interconnected, okay, physically, not a problem. So let's do this. Verify that. Desktop. So ping 10.20.1.101 PC3. Okay. And 21.101. Request timeout. Oh, looks like I still have some spanning tree running here. Okay. Sometimes it'll time out because of the ARP request. Well, let me just pause here and let spanning tree finish. Okay, so pinging from PC2 to PC3, we can see that now works. I just had to wait for spanning tree to reconverge. I've been pausing the video and kind of restarting a couple of things, but anyway, it all works. So one of the things to make note of, attention to detail. Okay, it's very easy to wrong port number, wrong VLAN ID, even some of the things that we did, like configuring the VLAN, uh, all the VLANs. Be sure, showing you the lab here, like these VLANs here. It's important to create these on the distribution switches, those top switches here, okay? If you don't, then there's going to be some issues, as we won't know about those VLANs. Anyway, we'll get into that, more of that in the lecture. But attention to detail matters. So creating the VLANs, making sure that you have the right ports assigned to the right VLANs, very important. Okay, so you can see this is why I script everything out ahead of time. So I also can see, oh, I made a mistake there. Okay, also makes it a little faster. Okay, we did the voice VLAN. Also the trunking. Okay, it's important to make sure that you're consistent. Okay, again, attention to detail. Again, this is why I make my little scripts here. It's actually the same commands on all of these. So although I've put it on different switches, just depending upon the interfaces, but these commands here were all the same. All right, so let's take a look. We said that we didn't break anything. It looks like everything can still reach each other. Okay, we can even look over here. Let's see, let's check. Can PC7 reach PC9? Let's check that. Again, only devices on the same network. We haven't done any routing between networks. Okay, so it's only devices on the same networks, same VLAN, same as network in this case. Ping, can't talk and write at the same time. There we go. There we are. Yep. PC7 reach PC9. So only devices on the same network, same VLAN can right now reach each other. Okay. All right. So this is all looking really good. Okay. What else do we need to look at here? Let's take a look at, well, I said, why did we do all of this? Okay. Let's take a look. If I take a look at this switch here, to log in again. I had reset something during the pause. Okay, if I do show MAC address table, notice, oh, something's different now. My MAC address table has different VLANs. Each one of these is a separate broadcast domain. So only devices in this VLAN will see each other's Ethernet broadcasts or any other Ethernet frames. Only devices in, let's see, well, we only have one device in that VLAN right now, but let's see if I go over here, same thing. Let's go, enable class, show MAC address table. Okay. Only devices in VLAN 40, for example, will be able to see each other's Ethernet frames. Those Ethernet broadcasts are not propagated to other VLANs. Let me show you what I mean by this. It's the easiest way to do this. I'll be showing this in my class, of course. So, for example, we have this device here. Okay, VLAN 20. So this port here is associated with VLAN 20. This device here is also in that same VLAN. This port is associated with VLAN 20. Same IP network addresses, same VLANs. VLAN 20. VLAN 20. Also, this port here, VLAN 20. Because we put this port on VLAN 20 because this device here is also on that same IP network. Okay. So an Ethernet broadcast, like an ARP request, When this device here sent out an ARP request, says, hey, who is 10.1.102? I need your MAC address. It sent out the Ethernet broadcast. That only went out VLAN 20 ports, did not go out this port here, but this is a trunk port. So it did go out this port. This port here, and I'll show you that in a moment, carries all VLANs. Same, did not go out this port. That's VLAN 10. We're only VLAN 20 ports only. Trunk port carries VLAN 20. Trunk port carries VLAN 20. Went out this port. Okay, because it's a VLAN 20. Went out this port here, VLAN, because it's a trunk port that carries VLAN 20. Went out this port here because it's a VLAN 20 port. Did not go out this port. So we can see we have these separate broadcast domains. Same thing here. Let me use a VLAN 10 here. This network here, these devices here are on the same IP network. Okay, same VLAN ports here. So any broadcast here goes out here, goes up this trunk link here, down this trunk link. Trunk links carry all VLANs, go out this port here. Will not go out this port. We'll go out this port. Trunk ports, yes. But that's it. These devices will not see it, just like these devices did not see broadcasts from VLAN 10. Okay. All right. Okay, quickly here, I just want to show you a few verification commands. So let's do that. Let's let me close this. We'll stay on access 1-1 here. Let's do show VLAN brief. Shows you our access ports, which devices, which interfaces or ports are on specific VLANs. Yeah. We also have the show interface. I can do fast Ethernet 0.5 here. I talk more about this in the lecture and also in the lab document itself. Oh, I forgot one other command, switch port. There we go. This. See, by itself, this command just gives me kind of the basic interface, a lot of some software, some hardware configuration information. But with switch port, it says you got VLAN information. Okay. Okay, fast Ethernet 0.5, it's enabled, means it's a layer 2 port. So the switch port mode access, that's why we get static access. It is an access mode VLAN 10. All right, talk more about this in the lab itself, but I also want to show you this command here, show interfaces trunk. So you notice the show VLAN command, I scroll up here, does not show me my fast Ethernet 0.1 port or fast Ethernet 0.2 or my gig 0.1 port. This is only access VLANs. Show VLAN. To see trunk ports, I have to do show interfaces trunk. There we go. Fast Ethernet 1 and 2, these links here. And gigabit 0.1, all the same parameters. There's our native VLAN. We'll talk more about that in class. The 802.1q trunking protocol, that's the standard. These are the VLANs we've allowed on the trunk. So you should see the same information across all switches. All right. I cover some more things in the lecture and some more things in the lab document itself, but I hope you found this helpful. Again, be very careful, meticulous. Attention to detail matters. It really helps if you script these out, like I showed you in my lab document. Again, there's more information in the lab document if you need it. Yeah, it's the script here showing you. Okay, a lot of information in here. We'll be talking more about it in class. Okay. Don't forget to save your lab. Usually save it as you go, and have a great day. Thanks.